because Yeshua lives forever. He has a permanent priesthood. Therefore, he is able to save those who come to God through him because he always lives to intercede for them. Such a high priest truly meets our need, one who is holy, blameless, pure, set apart from sinners, exalted above the heavens. Unlike the other high priests, he does not need to offer sacrifices day after day, first for his own sins and then for the sins of the people. He sacrificed for their sins once and for all when he offered himself to die on the cross. That was read from Hebrews chapter 7, 24 through 27. Thank you, people, for joining me. 77th once again. Thank you for joining me on this October 2nd. I'm making this video in commemoration of Yom Kippur 2025. The title of this video is going to be FETI. And what role do these two functions play in the MBTI? Namely, if it's a personality type that has these two functions high versus a personality that doesn't. So, of course, we're going to go with we'll do the INFJ, of course, over here. Do I need all four? I don't think I need all four sides of the mind. I don't think I do. Oh, wait, whoops. Oh no, I can go like this. Okay, and what other type am I going to go with? Let's see. I'll do the INFP. It's been a while since I made a video, so my navigating. Oh, what am I doing? This is about FETI. So I have to do another type. We'll have to do let's do the ENFJ. We'll do the ENFJ. No, we'll do the ESFJ. I mean, the FETI is the same in both. Ooh, that in was kind of tricky. Yes, and I'm going with my model as this is how I feel the first four truly are. So notice I did not put the dots on mine, and there was a reason for that. It's called awakening. In any case, so, well, let me put we know this is the INFJ, this is the ESFJ. This isn't MBTI kindergarten here. So, yeah, so basically, this is the INFJ. So, I was talking about FE and TI, and I don't want this video to be long, so I'm just going to go into it. Namely, basically, if you do not have, well, let's start over here with the ESFJ. So you have FE here, right? You have FE. Now we know FE DOMs can read the reactions and emotions of people because, that's their thing. That's what they do. Empathy. Absolutely. So you have empathy up here, right? But fourth, you have TI here. Okay? You have TI here. So, namely, we're going to go over here. And if you know the INFJ stack, it is basically the you are basically pre-wired as a psychologist. That's what the INFJ stack is. Why do I say that? Because, I mean, these four functions tell that story. So let's go into it. You have a psychologist, has a practice, has an office, has a chair. Love seat. You know, Patient comes in, has a seat, lays down, relaxes, kicks their feet up. SE, TI is already in play for me, or the INFJ, or the ESTP, or the ENTP, or the ISTP. So, but they would be more TIFE rather than FETI. So, but it's the same. As far as the context of what I'm talking about, as far as this video, they're the same. It's the same. So basically, like I said, SETI is already in play. I'm taking in all the data with my SE that the patient's giving me. Okay. So let me do this. All the information I'm getting, from the outside about the patient, what I'm seeing. So I'm taking in, analyzing with these two. Of course, my subconscious is in play. So I'm asking questions, I'm getting to know the person, FE. Then we have TI right here. So as the person, is filling me in, my FE is and SE are taking everything in, reading the reactions, things of that nature. And then I'm also taking in that information and analyzing it as well. But I am not an ESTP. So ESTPs, ISTPs, as they're getting that information in real time, they are adept at, getting that information in real time, analyzing it in real time, and being able to execute. Namely, say a doctor, in an emergency room. If that doctor's an ESTP, when that patient comes in and something's wrong, that doctor will easily, well, because of their SE and TI being so strong, they will be able to diagnose that patient way faster than anybody else. Now, why do I say that? In that situation, going into a hospital, you're sick, you have symptoms, you're coughing, things like that. You could have, a broken limb, something like that. Of course, if the doctor's an ESTP, they will be able to pick up on those things. But if it's something internal, more so to speak, the ESTP doctor can do that, but it will take a whole lot more effort. And then ESTP, ISTP doctors, they will have this NI will be weak. Namely, in the situation of if something's, so to speak, psychologically wrong with somebody, or more, if it's not obvious, like Tourette's or something, if it's something more on the internal side, you know, say internal trauma from childhood, excuse me, things like that. So that would be where the INFJ and their NI comes in, because we, of course, have SE. We can take in the SE, you know, and we'll ask questions and we'll ask logical questions and things like that. But with TI being third, it's more of a it's more the dynamic of the NI TI, so to speak, with us. NITI works best when we're alone, when we're when we're in a quiet space, or when we're by ourselves, when we're not in an SE environment. So so after the patient will tell me everything, and after they leave, I will analyze and everything like that, right? So more or less, I will be able to get, or an INFJ, or if you have FETI high, you will be able to analyze these things. Okay. So, namely, like I said, with the ESFJ or ENFJ, you know, they can read the person, but when it comes to that diagnosis and logic, there may be issues. Now, when I say issues, if it's a seasoned, psychologist, doctor, you know, not necessarily a bachelor's, but a PhD, lots of training, you know, this may not come into play necessarily, because then at that point it's more about this, everything that ESFJ has studied. Now I'm back to ESFJ since I have this one up here. So, um, but yeah, like I've mentioned, the first and third function being its own dynamic, the primary mode of processing. With the second function, there's also the same thing. So, as you can see, with the ESFJ and their second mode of processing, with this, when it comes to this second and fourth mode of processing, and this is for any personality type, by the way, there's an issue. As you can see, these dots, there's a disconnect. And as I've mentioned before, where the fourth function is, you can draw a line right through it. And that's where the shadow realm starts. And then you would have FI, SE, and you get all the other ones. Okay. So, yeah, this is basically the reason for this quick video. Yeah, that was a funky looking D. And yes, to me, in my study, the fourth function is not above this line. The fourth function runs straight through it, and the second half of the fourth function is in the shadow realm. So, to me, basically, it's half shadow influenced. So, half of the information TI is getting is from the shadow, and the other half is from, the ego portion. So, there's a there's an issue with the ESFJ, ENFJ when it comes to that analyzing power, as far as accuracy. Whereas the INFJ doesn't necessarily have that issue, because FE and TI are second and third. Now, how many of us have noticed that there's not a personality type that has FE dominant and TI second. Has that crossed anybody's mind enough to ask why? Um, that's something even I am still questioning. Well, not I'm thinking about it. I'm NITIing that one. Because I basically just thought about it, you know, probably while I'm making this video. Um, but the FE and TI thing, that's been on my mind. I've been wanting to make a video about that. Um, but yeah, other types that have FE and TI high. Okay, I've mentioned the ESTP. Oh, mentioned the ESTP. Don't mind the writing. ISTP. These diagnosing abilities. I think the ENTP. You can put the ENTP in there as well because their FE is third, their TI is first. So that's kind of the border line. Um, and there was one more. Oh yeah, me. So yeah, these are the four personalities that are going to be better at, diagnosing. And when I say I'm talking more on the people level. On the people level, it's going to be more about FE being second or first, then TI second. If you have TI first and then FE, then it's more about somebody using their second TI to more or less take advantage of FE, more in the case of the ESTP and the ISTP. You guys already know how I feel about the ESTP. And like I said, the ISTP is nothing more than the little brother of the ESTP. Namely, if you have this, if you're the introverted version of an extroverted personality, you are nothing more than the little brother of this. And what I mean by that is you are introverted as far as that type. So what the ESTP does externally, or the extroverted personality does externally, the introverted would more or less do that introvertedly, if that's a word. So, I mean, even me, and I'm an introvert myself. But I will say, as, and I don't draw my shadow in red anymore for obvious reasons. But you see her? She is kind of influencing me to be more this. So recently I found myself being more extroverted, so to speak. That doesn't mean on a scale of 1 to 10, I was like a 2 being an introvert. I mean, being a 10 being an introvert, and now I'm a 1 being an introvert, meaning I'm like a 9 being an extrovert. No. Meaning, like when I'm going out in public, I'm more inclined to ask a question or give a compliment, or if somebody has a cool shirt or car or motor, it doesn't matter. I'll be more inclined to say, "Hey, man, that is cool. That is cool." You know, rather than an introvert would just think that in their head and that would be it. Whereas it's more about telling the person and letting them know. So, and it's more I want to let them know because I want them to, because of this. I really feel that it's cool. And I would more or less want that person to know that I think X is cool, or if X pissed me off. So, um, but there are certain, but FI, yeah, yeah. Like I said, um, FI being an INFJ, when it awakens, yes, when it awakens, it is its own superpower. Being able to be truly authentic to yourself without any unapologetically being truly authentic to yourself. Yes, yes, absolutely, without question. My FI rescued my FE. Yes, absolutely. So when I talk about Noir, when I post pictures about her, she's very vital in my life. Very vital. Very vital. As you can see, this percentage parallel to my NI. So my two strongest functions. So I think I've rambled on enough. Um, like I said, this isn't, MBTI level one.